Hello, doctors. The title of my proposal is on Law on Regulating Cyber Violence in China. My supervisor is Prof. Rizal and Dr. Zamri. Research background. In recent years, incidents of cyber violence have frequently appeared in various media, and some have caused improbable tragedies. In 2019, Korea star solely committed suicide due to cyber violence. In 2022, Liu Xuezhou, a boy looking for relatives, committed suicide after leaving a suicide note, stating that he had suffered cyber violence and ended his life. In early 2022, United Nations research suggests that up to 7 in 10 young people have experienced earlier abuse at some point. In 2023, Internet Service Questionnaire on encountering ATU accused to cyber violence was conducted among 3,591 respondents across China. The survey showed that 60% of the respondents have experienced cyber violence. Nearly 80% of the respondents believe that the degree of governance of cyber violence is urgent, and nearly 70% support the introduction of the anti-cyber violence law as soon as possible. The year-by-year increase in cyber violence in China has become a social problem, and there is an urgent need to regulate and govern the cybersecurity and the cyberspace. Maintaining cyberspace security has become a topic of the times. Problem statement. First, the legislation is not perfect. From the perspective of China legislation, there are many laws that specifically regulate bad behavior on the Internet, such as network security law, personal information protection law, data security law, and so on. However, because these legal provisions are scattered in various departmental laws, there is no coordination and cooperation, and they cannot be effectively applied in place. Second, judicial practice is difficult to operate. Among cyberbullying cases, most of them are private prosecution cases, and there are few public prosecution cases. However, private prosecution cases still face rights protection difficulties such as high cost of rights protection, difficulty in collecting evidence, difficulty in penetrating the infringing subject, and difficulty in producing evidence. Third, network supervision is not in place. In the actual operation process, some earlier platforms will deliberately use inflammatory and controversial speech to help, to a certain extent, become the accomplice of cyberbullying. Finally, the legal awareness of citizens is weak. The number of citizens in China is increasing. The scale is getting large and younger, and most citizens have legal awareness on the Internet. In recent years, China has paid more and more attention to the threat and the governance of cyber violence, but the phenomenon of cyber violence still emerges endlessly. In just over 2 years since the outbreak of the epidemic, cyber violence against the various nations whose personal information has been leaked has occurred frequently. The bringing and the spread of cyber violence is becoming more and more difficult to control. China's existing legal regulation measures against cyber violence have seriously lagged behind the legislation process of cyberspace in China. It can be seen that China still has a long way to go to govern cyber violence. Research objective. First, to examine concepts and theories regarding to cyber violence. Second, to analyze the law regarding cyber violence in China. Third, to analyze the law on regulating cyber violence in the United States of America. South Korea and Germany. Fourth, to propose a legal recommendation regarding civil violence in China. Research questions. First, what are the concepts and theories of civil violence? Second, how do the law on regulating civil violence in China? Third, how do the law in the United States of America, South Korea, and Germany? Fourth, what are the recommendations regarding civil violence in China? Literature review. The literature review studies the meaning, causes, and regulations of civil violence in China and abroad. Methodology. The study consists of two parts: data collection and data analysis. Collection of data. The qualitative research will be conducted by using the library and will consist of primary and secondary sources. The primary sources include relevant legislation, status reports, and cases. The secondary sources include articles, journal, legal writing, legal opinion, and legal commentary writers by area experts, other researchers, academics, and scholars. Data analysis strategies. Interview is a qualitative research method that relies on asking questions in order to collect data. By interviewing different participants, such as lawyers, judges, academic procurators, and net police, opinions covering a wide range of perspectives can be obtained. These legal workers have rich practical experience and can help us better understand the current status of legal and judicial practice and provide valuable suggestions for improvement. Comparative research method. The comparative method is a comparative study of the legal system of different countries or regions. Compare the situation of civil violence in various countries. Compare the attitudes of various countries to specific behaviors such as civil violence and compare the methods of dealing with civil violence in legislation and practice. Comparative concepts research method. Two or more related cases are examined to discover similarities. In the comparative case study approach, the sources of data can be from two or more different countries or regions. On the other hand, the specific cases of judicial practice department are researched to find cases that conflict the changing paces of judicial authorities' attitudes towards civil violence-related behavior and specific judgmental conclusion. On the other hand, more representative cases are found through database and overseas-related websites. The problems are explained through the combination of case study and theoretical analysis. Current finding of study. There is currently no unified consensus on the precise definition of boundaries of civil violence. In terms of normative documents, the concept of civil violence is different in the provisions of the governments of information on civil violence and guiding opinions on punishing civil violence violation and crimes in accordance with the law. In public opinion or platforms governments, there is a distinction between a narrow and a broad concepts of civil violence. In the academic world, there are three ways to define the concepts of civil violence. The first is from the individual rights, that the civil violence is a kind of tort. The second is from the perspective of individual behavior. The cyber violence is a kind of misconduct. The third is from the perspective of social opinion. That cyber violence is a kind of blind or obtuse behavior. Legal governance status of Internet to cyber violence in China. At present, in terms of China's legislation, there are a number of laws that specifically regulate the act of cyber violence, such as cyber security law, the personal information protection law, and the data security law. In addition, there are a number of laws deal with Internet regulation, such as the civil law and the law on security publishment. In terms of criminal legislation, China has the criminal law. The decision of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress on maintaining Internet security and the judicial interpretation on handling criminal cases involving the use of information networks to commit slander. As these legal provisions are scattered among various sectional laws, they lack the coordination and cannot be applied concretely in practice, resulting in the reality that a large number of incidents of cyber violence still occur frequently. The first is civil liability. Article 1024 of the Civil Code provides the civil subject have the right to honor. No organization or individual may infringe upon another person's right to reputation by insulting or defaming him or her. If an infringement is committed, civil liability such as compensation and apology is occurred. Next is administrative liability. Article 42 of the Public Security Administration Publishment Law stipulates that anyone who publicly insults another person or fabricates facts to slander another person may be sentenced to minimum of 10 years administrative detention. Finally, there is criminal liability. Article 246 of the Criminal Law provides that anyone who publicly insults any one person or fabricates facts to slander another person by violence or other means, if the circumstances are serious, shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment or of not more than 3 years, detention, control, or deprivation of political rights. Problems in the legal governance of civil violence in China. First, there is no special legislation on civil violence in China, and the law on regulation of civil violence are scattered. The legislation is vague on how to carry out Internet regulation. Second, operational difficulty in judicial practice, difficulty in identifying the responsible subject in case of civil violence. Victims of civil violence are in a difficult position to defend their rights. Third, inadequate regulation of online platforms. In practice, some online platforms intentionally make use of such incendiary and controversial remarks for help. Fourth, weak legal awareness of citizens. Some Internet users do not even have any legal awareness of their own behavior. For example, they may forward an unknown link at will, or make commitments that bring harm to the person, consent, or even to society, without even understanding that this harm have already violated the law. Chapter in research. In addition to the abstract introduction conclusion, acknowledgement, and references. The study is proposed to be divided into 6 main chapters. Chapter 1 is an introduction. Chapter 2 expounds the concepts and the basic theories of civil violence, and the analysis a series of harms caused by civil violence. Chapter 3, the law on regulating civil violence in China. Chapter 4 compares the analysis the law on regulating civil violence in the United States of America, South Korea, and Germany. Chapter 5, based on review, finding, and empirical data analysis. Chapter 6, according to the reality of China and the extent experience of foreign governments, put forward the viable suggestions to improve the legal governance of civil violence in China. These are the references for the paper. These are agenda charts that reflect the process of the paper. Thank you for listening.